right, well, you're showing up, so that's awesome. Okay, there's still people popping on. We have a wonderful guest with us, Panda Morgan, but let's take a minute. If anyone wants to open up the mic and share a success, we'd love to hear it.
So I've booked 3 sessions in the last couple days. So I did 2 maternity sessions this last weekend, and I booked extended family session for March 7th and a senior portrait session for beginning of March as well.
Right on.
Yay. Congratulations. That's a big win. That's awesome.
Yeah. There you go. Anyone else?
Okay, don't be shy, everybody.
Yeah, I'm gonna just pick someone. Feliza, got anything for us?
Sorry, it took me. No, it took me a minute to unmute. Had a feeling you were going to pick on me for some reason.
I know it was that energy thing that
Unfortunately, I do not have anything new to report. Yeah, I don't have anything. Sorry.
Okay, so what would you say is the biggest hurdle you're facing right now?
Right now, I'm the bare bones basic, like starting off. I have nothing. So I'm like, right now, my biggest thing is thinking up a name.
Okay. Cool. Well, would you be open to workshopping that on Thursday?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, so on Thursday, I'm going to call on you and you're going to describe your business as succinctly as possible.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good.
We'll do a group think with you.
Okay.
And if I forget, remind me, please.
I will.
Okay. Thanks for opening up your mic.
No problem.
6:01. Let's squeeze another one in. Anybody?
I'll go ahead.
Cool.
So over the weekend, I had the goal of starting 20 gallons of a variety of different beers. And I actually did 25 instead of 20. So including a keto-friendly option.
So that's 20 different varieties?
No. So they're 5-gallon batches each.
Uh-huh.
And I did 25 gallons over the weekend.
Right on.
And
cool.
They are all, it takes a day or two for the yeast to actually get active and to start going crazy. And right now, all of them look like a snowstorm is going on inside of the carboy, which is pretty cool to see. So.
Right on. Something's brewing, literally.
If only you had a bunch of adults that you could rely on to taste test these.
I volunteer. I'm willing to sacrifice for you, Daniel. I'm willing.
All right, Daniel, you got a question in chat, and I'm going to address some other question in chat, which is connecting with fellow students. Where Nicole and I are working on that. We really are sensitive to your privacy, so we need explicit permission. There's a form that's going to be sent out soon, I imagine, yes. That's going to give you an opportunity to say, yes, I'd like to be included. This is my business. Here's my contact information. And we'll share that with everybody.
Yeah, it's a 1-pager form, and it's asking for your consent to share your information. So it'll be your name, address, phone number, email, and then information about your business. So your business name, if you have any employees and how many, your business website, an address, so any information that you put on that form, if you check yes, that information will be shared with the class. It will only be shared with those in the class who also want their information on a list. So know that it's not going anywhere else besides those who have been participating for the last 6 weeks and those who have agreed to have their information shared. So,
and would on that list be something that says like what business we're working on?
Yeah, there's a question regarding what type of industry you're with, so, or industry your business is in. So when you look at the question, it's a drop down. And so you're only going to see initially like 4 or 5, but on the right hand side, there's a little scroll bar and you just pull that down and it gives a whole list of all the different types of industries. And then you can click on the one that best matches yours. And then that will be compiled into a larger list. And then you all can connect with each other. So that will be sent out hopefully tomorrow at the very latest. So at least by Thursday, you can kind of start connecting with people if you'd like to.
Excellent, Nicole, thank you. Okay, let's get rolling. We have a very special guest with us tonight, Panda Morgan, who I think has the best name in SBDC business consulting there is. I love your name, Panda.
Thanks.
So Panda is going to be talking about a wildly requested subject about incorporation, legal entities, insurance, and I bet you there's going to be some other things she covers as well based on your questions. Panda is a SBDC consultant with a lot of specialty in a lot of different areas. And I asked Panda to join us because she's better than I am. So I want to present you guys the best there is. And with that, Panda, take it away. And Nicole and I will be monitoring chat. So put your questions in there, or yeah, put your questions in chat. That'd be great.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks for inviting me. I was pretty excited. I haven't really, being at home all the time, don't have a lot of interaction with face-to-face. Like, I consider this to be face-to-face because I can see people. So it's my pleasure and my honor to be able to do this. So one of the things that Robert asked me to do is just talk about legal structures and insurance. So I'm going to try to stick to those topics. And like Robert said, if you have anything else along the way that you want to, maybe it just clicks something with you and you say, what about? Try to keep those to a minimum because we don't have like 4 days, and trust me, Nicole and Robert both know me, so they know that I can talk till the cows come home. So that I have no problem with talking. So I'll be happy to try to keep this to today before midnight. How's that? I'll be doing good if I can do that. So let's just get started. So there's basically 5 different legal structures that most small businesses will look at having over the life of their business. They might start out with one, move to another one, and so forth down the road. Okay, so the basic 5 are sole proprietorships, partnerships, LLCs, S corporations, and C corporations. Okay, so there are certainly many more than that, but for small businesses, that's basically what you're looking at. Okay, so let's talk about just sole proprietorships for a second. A sole proprietorship, understand this, California is a community property state. I think the last time I looked, there were only 9 community property states in the United States, and California is one of them. So what that means is whatever your spouse owns, you automatically own 50% of it. That's exactly what that means. So California doesn't acknowledge common law marriage at all. So if people say, common law doesn't exist in the state of California. So understand that. So as a sole proprietorship, you as a single person, a sole owner, can own the business by yourself, or you can own it with your, you have to be a married couple. Okay, so you can own it with your spouse. You can't own a sole proprietorship with your children, your cousin, even if they're related. That's not the way California law is written. You cannot do that. It has to be a sole proprietorship, a designated individual, or a designated married couple. Okay. So select your business name. That's the first step in all of this. And I heard somebody say, oh, I'm having troubles with my business name. Well, don't make it complicated. This is what I'm going to say about a business name. Your business name should depict what you do. Have you ever seen a company that says like Morgan and Associates? It's my last name, right? What the heck do they do? So your business name should bring in something about what your business is, and that's part of your marketing and your ability to market your business through that business name. So try to tie those two together. So when you pick your business name, next thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the county. Typically, if you're in Placer County, you're going to go to Auburn, and that's where the county seat is, in Auburn. So you're going to go to Auburn. If you're in Sacramento County, you're going to go to county office in Sacramento. Okay, so you're going to go there and you're going to file what is called a fictitious name filing. A fictitious name filing is a business name other than your own name. Your own name is defined as your first and last name. If I just picked, like I wanted to name my business Panda Express. Express is not my last name. Morgan is my last name. So one is that name's already taken, so I couldn't take that anyway. But I can't just say Panda's, something and use a different name. I would have to say my business name is Panda Morgan. And therefore, then you don't have to file a fictitious name filing. Think about filing a fictitious name filing as a naming your children. Same thing. You're naming your business, you're naming your children. And I don't see that there's a big difference between a business and your children. Both of them can be the best and the worst on any given day, right? So fictitious name filing, you file that with the county. And when you file that in the county, some counties require, if you're inside the city limits, like if you're inside the city of Roseville is going to ask you to file a city business license. If you're in the county, if your business is in the county, then you may or may not need a business license, but you still have to file a fictitious name filing, okay? So what you have to do is you have to check with that county to see if they require you to have a business license in that county. Now, defined as a county is if you're within a city limits inside of that county, you are inside the city limits of Roseville, you're inside the city limits, so you would file a business license inside the city. But outside the city limits of any city, you're considered to be county. So once if you're only in a county, then that's where you're going to, maybe you don't need a business license. Define that as far as if I have a home-based business and I live in the county, I'm going to register my business name, get my fictitious business name filed, and maybe they'll say to me, oh, you don't need a business license because you're in the county and you're running this business out of your home. Now, if I live in the county, but yet my business is inside the city limits, I'm going to register that business inside the city limits because that's exactly where I do my business. Even though I may work from home a lot, my business location is still considered to be inside the city limits. Therefore, I would need a business license inside the city limits. Okay. The other thing that is required that you do is once you register your fictitious name filing, and if you have to have a business license, you get that. You need to run that that you filed your fictitious name file. You need to run that in the newspaper. It can be in any public newspaper, and it has to run 4 consecutive times for it to be valid. And the purpose of running it in the newspaper is so people have a chance to say, oh, you can't take that business name because I already have that business name. Gives them an opportunity, because maybe when you did a search on that business name, it didn't come up and you didn't see that somebody else had that business name. It gives that business owner an opportunity to say, no, 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 I already own that business name. You cannot have that business name. So that's one of the reasons. And it gives the public an opportunity to see that you are actually opening a business and who owns that business and what type of business it is. The way I kind of look at it, it's upfront marketing and advertising for your business. Fictitious name filings are good for only 5 years. So at the end of 5 years, you actually need to refile your fictitious name filing. And so, forgot to turn my phone off. Sorry about that. So you need to file your fictitious name filing again after 5 years. A business license is renewable depending on the county that you're in. Most counties require that you pay that business license fee, or most cities, wherever you are, once a year. So you're going to get a bill on that, or sometimes you just have to remember that it's due. On your fictitious name filing, I have never seen the county where you file your fictitious name filing, the business owner gets a notification. You just have to know that it expires in 5 years. Okay.
Hey, Panda, can I, there's a couple questions.
Sure.
One is someone going into business, Sally's going into business, doesn't have a lease yet on a brick and mortar, wants to know where to file the fictitious business name, whether it's the home or, what are the requirements around that?
What you can do is, good question. What you can do is, if you don't have a brick and mortar yet, file it as a home-based business, or file it with if you know that you're going to get a brick and mortar, and you're going to be moving out of your home, you go ahead and use your home address as your legal business address. And once you get that brick and mortar, just go back to the county or the city and update that information and change your address. That's all you have to do. I think I think you bring up a good point. If you have a home-based business, you have to have a home business occupancy permit as well. So the county or the city has to approve you running your type of business out of your home. And so that's very, very important for you to get, because sometimes people set up businesses in their home and then they realize that, somebody from the county or somebody from the city comes by and they give you a fine, and they say, well, you didn't register your business. They said, oh, I didn't know that I had to, but yet you're fined because you didn't do it. Or they say, sorry, you can't run your type of business out of your home because it's illegal to do that.
So Panda, the questions are piling up. Thank you for that answer.
Okay.
So there's going to be a multi-part question here. One about registering your business at home, and do you have any privacy concerns or safety concerns, or some of the ramifications, getting too much junk mail or something like that? So that's one question. And then the other question is, what if it's a home-based online business? If it's an online remote-based business, will they have to have a business license?
It depends on the county. Yeah, and every county is different, and every situation is different. That's why I suggest that you visit the county. You definitely have to have a fictitious name filing, but always check with the county and see if you have to have that business license, or check with the city to see if you have to have that business license to do business. Okay. What was it? Go back to the first question again.
Private, so if you have a home.
Oh, the privacy. Yes. Okay.
Privacy.
Yeah. So a lot of people, what they've elected to do is they've elected to go through, if they don't want to use their home address, they go to, I think it's like mailboxes, et cetera, or something like that. You can get an address and it looks like a regular physical address. And so it's not a post office box. A lot of people do that. So they're not using their home address, and it keeps that privacy intact for you. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, there is one.
Okay.
Ty, do you want to just unmute yourself?
Okay. Hi. So I have an LLC sole proprietorship that I established in 2018. When I have had a business checking account for over 5 years. I opened my business checking account on a DBA that I established in Los Angeles, where I started my business. When I went to add on a business savings account, Bank of America told me, oh, your DBA is expired. You have to go get one. When I went to the Placer County to get the DBA, they said, you have an LLC that trumps a DBA. You don't need to get a DBA, but you do have to get a business license because your office is within city limits. My bank is now dragging their feet on doing the business savings account. And so I'm kind of like, I don't know what to do. Do I actually have to have a DBA? The woman at the office was like, oh, you're going to waste $130. You don't need it. You have an LLC.
Right. Yeah. So this is my, a lot of people get confused on just the legal structure. Like you have an LLC. You don't need to have a DBA. So here's what a DBA is. If I have my LLC is called Morgan Enterprises, DBA, doing business as Panda Morgan Consulting. That's a DBA. And so every time I use my business name, I'm going to use Panda Morgan Consulting. If you don't need a DBA, you don't need a DBA. So if I have Morgan Enterprises and I want to use that on everything, I do not need a DBA at all. Okay, so you get your LLC through the state of California, you get your DBA through the county office. But you have to show them your LLC in order to do that, like you're in Southern California. So you don't need a DBA at all. A lot of people think, oh, I have to have a DBA, because I think what happens is they go online and they start reading about it and they think, oh, I have to have a DBA. You do not have to have a DBA. I kind of discourage people from having a DBA at all. Okay. Okay. So let's continue with the sole proprietorship. Okay. If we can, because we're kind of in the middle of that. Okay. So you run it in the newspaper. You have to run it 4 consecutive weeks. Now, if a newspaper is a daily newspaper, it will usually be published in that newspaper, maybe like every Tuesday or every Wednesday or something like that. Has to run 4 consecutive times. If it's a monthly newspaper, it will run like 4 months, because that's all that newspaper runs. Or if it's a weekly newspaper, it's going to run 4 consecutive weeks as well. Okay, so but it has to run in the newspaper. It has to run 4 consecutive times. Now, there's been some changes in some of the counties that I've seen, where the county will, if they require you to have a business license, will not give you the business license until you run it in the newspaper and it's published the 4 consecutive times. What was happening is people were bypassing the newspaper publication. And I think the newspaper and the business licensing folks got together and they said, okay, we have to kind of, figure this out. And so the newspaper will actually inform the county once that has been run 4 consecutive times. Okay. So after that happens, you can get what I want you to do, instead of using your social security number in your business, and I don't care, if this is a sole proprietorship or a partnership or, whatever, I want you to get a federal EIN number. It's like a federal tax ID number, like a social security number, but it's for your business. And the reason why I encourage you to do that is because you don't want your social security number floating out there, because you have a lot of vendors. They'll say, oh, we need your social security number. Well, you don't give them your social security number. There was a time in our history where it was okay to give people our social security numbers, and everybody carried their social security card in their wallet. Well, now we don't do that because of identity theft. So make sure that you get a federal EIN number, and you can go to www.irs.ca.gov. Again, that's www.irs.ca.gov. Okay. And all you're going to do is you're going to look for an icon that says apply for EIN number. And then you're going to fill it out and you're going to submit it. There's no cost to it. It usually comes back to you within, I've seen it take 5 minutes and I've seen it take 30 seconds. But you're going to immediately get that EIN number. Okay. All right. So then you want to take your business license or your fictitious name filing, your tax ID number, print it out because the bank's going to need to see it. And you take it to the bank and open a business checking account. If you do it in that order, life is easy. If you try to go out of order, life becomes more difficult for you. So your business name, your business license, your fictitious name filing, your business license, run it in the newspaper, EIN number, open your business checking account. Do it in that order. Life is smooth. I think, gosh, it's been a few years ago now. I set up this small little business, and I was just going to set it up on a sole proprietorship, and it took me about 30 minutes to do it. The whole thing, start to finish. Open my bank account, everything done in about 30 minutes. Okay.
How much did that cost? Do you remember?
Okay. Well, I'm in Sutter County, and Sutter County is a little less expensive than most places. My fictitious name filing, I think at the time was like $25. My business license, I did not need one because I was in the county. Had I been inside the city limits, I think it would have been about $35. To run it in the newspaper, it was about $20 at that point in time. Open my checking account and their EIN number, there's no charge for that. And open my checking account, they just required me to have $100 to put in. Now, other counties, other newspapers, now our local newspaper in Sutter County, they charge $150 to run that same publication. So again, check with the newspaper to find out what that fee is going to be. But I would think probably in Placer County and in Sacramento County. Sacramento County is a little more expensive. It's probably all total. It's probably going to cost you upward of about, I'm going to say probably $400, maybe $500, something like that. In Placer County, it's probably going to be about $350 or $400, somewhere in there, that neighborhood. Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions about a sole proprietorship? Anything at all? Anything coming up? Just about confused about anything? Okay. All right. So if there's no questions, okay, we're going to talk about partnerships now. Partnerships can be, was there a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So with regard to the sole proprietorship, if you don't have a physical product, and if you just are offering a service and a consultancy from a home based, how would you need to register?
How would I do what?
How would you register for sole proprietorship?
You still go through the same process, whether it's a home-based business or whether it's a brick and mortar, it does not matter. You're still going to go through the exact same process.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, partnerships, 2 or more people. A married couple can form a partnership. It doesn't have to be somebody outside of the family. It can be, like I said, a married couple. It's the same exact process as the sole proprietorship. You're going to select your business name. You're going to get your fictitious name filing, your business license, run it in the newspaper. You're going to get your EIN number. If you have payroll, you will get a state EIN number, and you go through EDD, Employment Development Department, to get that state number. So there's two different numbers that you're going to get. You have a federal EIN number and you have a state EIN number, but you only need that state EIN number if you have employees or if you're going to be an employee of your company. Okay, so an employee is a person who is going to draw a paycheck. Okay, we can get a little bit into, does anybody have any questions about what's the difference between a paycheck and a draw? Anybody want to know the difference?
I do.
Okay, you do. Okay. All right. Okay. So a draw is when you take money as a business owner, you take money out of your business, and you typically you're going to take it through a writing yourself a check or taking it out of the ATM machine or whatever. There's no taxes withheld on that. A paycheck, there's taxes withheld. Okay, just understand that that's the difference between the two. One does not have taxes withheld. A draw, paycheck has taxes withheld. Okay, all right. So with a sole proprietorship and the partnership, make sure that you set up also your accounting systems at the end when you get finished. As a sole proprietorship, by the way, you can take a paycheck. A lot of people say, oh, no, you can't do that. It's a sole proprietorship, so you have to take a draw. No, you don't have to. You can actually take a paycheck from a sole proprietorship, and that's perfectly legal and it's perfectly okay. So don't let anybody talk you into, oh, you can't do that. Okay.
Panda, some people are asking, like, what's the advantage or disadvantage of a paycheck versus a draw? Like,
oh, that's a great question. Okay. Here's an advantage. I'm going to give you an example of a company that I worked with. Oh, this has probably been a couple of years ago now. The company was a, I think it was a sole proprietor. It doesn't really matter what kind of legal structure it was, but I think it was a sole proprietorship. And the company started out really, really slow. The business owner took a draw because they weren't getting enough money to have a steady paycheck all the time. So they took a draw whenever they could take a draw. Then their company grew and they grew. And I said, okay, your business has grown to a nice level of making money. So why don't you start taking a paycheck? And if you take a paycheck, then you have taxes taken out of that.
Trent, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
All right.
Oops. Okay. All right. Oh, sorry. So, so you have taxes taken out of that, and they kind of forgot about it and they didn't do it. And so we got around to, and I didn't follow up with them to see if they'd actually set up payroll checks. And so they come November, I said, well, how's the business doing? And the person said, I am so excited. My profits in my business are like $60,000. And he was so excited. And I said, oh, that's horrible. and the reason why I said that's horrible is because he has to pay taxes on profits, right? So I said, didn't you set yourself up on payroll? And he said, oh no, he said, I forgot. We sat down and we figured out the difference of what he was going to pay in taxes. He ended up paying, I want to say probably about, if I remember right, about $26,000 in taxes. Had he taken a payroll check, he would have paid $4,000 in taxes. And the reason why is a payroll check comes off of the income, the profit and loss report or the income statement. It's deducted from expenses where a draw is not. And so it didn't reduce his profits in his business. Even though he was taking money, it didn't reduce his profits. So he had to pay, I think, like $26,000 in taxes. And he would have been taking a payroll check, he would have only paid $4,000. Any questions about that?
Yeah, I got just a technical thing. Maybe you have the answer or not.
Okay.
In that same scenario, if the PPP loans came out, would it change his eligibility? Like I guess it's better to have a paycheck because then you have employees and then you get, you could have gotten the PPP, correct?
Right. Yes. 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 And also one of the things that I like about taking a paycheck is one is you're paying into Social Security, Medicare, state disability, which is good. I mean, state disability you have to carry anyway, whether you are paying into it on a paycheck. As a business taking a draw, you still have to pay into state disability because that's the law. You have to do that. But one of the things that taking a paycheck gives you buying power as an individual. So I'll give you, for instance, I went to those a couple of years ago, I went to buy a car and they said, oh, we need to verify your income. So what I did is I took them a paycheck, a stub, paycheck, stub on my, and so they looked at it and they said, oh, this is really good. And they said, well, do you have long-term employment? And I said, oh, I have, long-term. They said, any chances of getting laid off? And I said, none, absolutely none. What I never told the guy is I owned the business. And so, I mean, to me, it was none of his business that it was my business. I just presented him with a pay stub and I qualified for the car that I wanted because I took a paycheck and it was easy for them to verify my income. As a sole proprietorship, and you don't take, not as a sole proprietorship, but typically it happens in sole proprietorships, but if you take a draw, you can't verify income. And so your buying power is greatly, greatly reduced if you just take a draw, because they don't count income from a business as a sole proprietorship. They won't do it. Okay. All right. Good questions. Okay. Okay. Partnerships. This is what I think about partnerships in the state of California. Robert, you and I decided to go into business together. Heaven forbid if you had me for a business partner, right? But we decided.
You take care of the legalities.
Yeah.
I'll take care of the marketing.
Okay. All right. Good. We got it covered then. Okay. So we decided to go into business together. It's like Robert gets married to me, right? Because that's the way California law is structured. It's like we're a married couple. So what I do personally, it becomes his responsibility. So if I don't pay my taxes, guess what? Robert gets to pay my taxes. We're going to business next week, by the way. It's tax time, right? So Robert becomes responsible for my whatever I do. So in the state of California, I would never, ever, ever form a partnership in the state of California. Not ever. Not ever. In the state of California. It's just the way the laws are written in the state of California, because California is a community property state. They consider a partnership to be community property. That's how they look at it. Okay. All right. Any questions about that? I think I was pretty clear about I would never do that. Right. Okay. So next one is an LLC. LLC. Again, you got to pick your business name. You file through the Secretary of State's office. You file through, on the website, it's www.sos.ca.gov. There's a little bit to it. I help people do this all the time. You don't need somebody to, you probably don't need to pay somebody to file your, your business name. Kind of going back a little bit, and I didn't mention this, and a sole proprietorship, when you set in a partnership, if you so choose to do one, when you set up your business name and your business filing is only good in the county in which you have filed it in. So Panda Enterprises, I'm in Sutter County. If somebody else wanted to use that same name in Sacramento County, I cannot prevent them from doing that. They can have exactly the same name. It doesn't matter. Okay. So just understand that. But when you file an LLC, what you're doing through the Secretary of State is you're filing your business name in all 58 counties in the state of California. That's what you're doing. So it reserves that business name in the state of California. So if I have Panda Enterprises in Sutter County, and Robert, you want to open Panda Enterprises in through the Secretary of State's office, and they grant that to you, you can write me a letter and tell me to change my business name, and I have to change my business name. I have to do that by law, because you're filing through the Secretary of State's office trumps your or my, in this case, my business name in one county. I have to change my business name. And I don't care if I've been in business for 30 years under that name and you're brand new. They're going to make me change that name. I have to change it. Okay. So you file through the secretary, like I said, is www.sos.ca.gov. Okay. So once you file that, there's a $70 filing fee. You can do it online. You don't have to go to their office. It's really slick these days, where you just fill out all the documents, you submit it, and it takes about 5 days. And then what happens is that information is comes up under a file name under your name in a spot on the Secretary of State's office, and you will receive articles of organization. Articles of organization. LLC stands for Limited Liability Company. It does not stand for Limited Liability Corporation. A lot of people think that C stands for corporation. It does not. Okay, stands for Limited Liability Company. So you have your articles of organization. It's not articles of incorporation, it's articles of organization. Then your next step is that you have to file a statement of information that's indicating the owners of the LLC, of who those people are. Because when you filed it, you don't have opportunity to list all the people that are owners of the LLC, but through the statement of information, you do have that option at that point in time. Okay. Now, and then you're going to get your federal EIN number. Same, IRS. You're going to go through that. Get your federal EIN number. Now, when you set up your LLC, there's the legal structure LLC, and then you have a choice of how you want to file your taxes. So your tax structure is dependent upon what you want to do. So you can have an LLC and you can file your taxes as a sole proprietorship. You can file your taxes as a partnership. You can file your taxes as a corporation. It's how you want to file your taxes. Like I own an LLC and I file my taxes as a corporation, and that's what I do. Okay. So I choose not to file it as a sole proprietorship. And the reason why I do it is I do it for tax reasons, is because I want as much tax advantage as I possibly can. And a corporation gives you better tax advantage than a sole proprietorship or a partnership. Okay, that's why I do it. Okay, and then I have other things that I do with that. So it sort of depends on what goes through that. Okay, so you have a choice and when you pick that choice, once you file through the Secretary of State, if you decide you're the only name on on the business, you're the only owner of the business, and you you would be a sole, if I can say that word, sole member, and you're a managing member. That's always going to be your title. LLC is you are a managing member. Okay, that's your title. You're not a CEO, you're not a CFO, you're not anything else. You're a managing member. That's your title. Okay, so then if you decide you want to file as a corporation, say you want to file your taxes as a corporation, you have to fill out an additional form, and it's an IRS Form 2553. And what that does is that tells the IRS how you want to file your taxes. If you do not file that Form 2553, they will automatically, if you're by yourself, they will automatically set you up as filing taxes as a sole proprietorship. And that's how they will do it. Okay, all right. So again, you still have to, even though you filed your business name in all the 58 counties, you still have to get a business license inside the county in which you are operating your business, where your business records are kept, or the city, whichever you have to do. Okay.
And there's a question about like becoming a Delaware corporation or incorporating in Nevada. And let's say if you were a California business, advantages, disadvantages.
Okay, here's I'm going to give you the disadvantages right away. If you have a office in Nevada, that's okay, because you have to have a physical address in Nevada. Okay, but if your business is in California, you still have to have a corporation in California, or a LLC in California. So Nevada is $495 a year to file an LLC or a corporation in Nevada, and California is $800. So you have to pay that $800 every year in California, and you'd have to pay that $495 every year in Nevada as well. So there's no advantages. A Delaware corporation, the only reason why you would want a Delaware corporation is if you plan on having multi businesses around the United States. That's the only way, that's the only reason I would ever do it. To me, it doesn't make any sense for most small businesses to do it. And there's certainly no tax advantage of doing it. Okay. All right. So if you're an LLC, you need to be an employee of your own company. I would not take a draw at all. You can take a draw, but not on a regular basis. I would probably set up payroll for yourself. And if you needed to take a draw, you can take a draw. It's not against the law for you to take a draw, but if you don't take a payroll check and you just take that draw, you're going to end up paying more in taxes than you ever want to pay. Okay, so a draw is okay on occasion. Occasionally, I take a draw out of my LLC and I file my LLC as a corporation. I take a monthly paycheck, and I also every once in a while I just take a draw because I want to. It's kind of what I want to do. Okay, you have to create an operating agreement. For an LLC, you have to have an operating agreement. And I have samples of operating agreements, or you can go online and you can find samples of operating agreements. And these are only for the LLC that you have to have an operating agreement. Okay. And then you open your, you get your EIN, you get your federal ID number. And you get your, all the documents, everything. You go to the bank and you open your checking account and you set up your accounting system. Okay. Now, accounting system, right here, I want to talk a little bit about accounting system. You can do an electronic accounting system. You can do a paper version of an accounting system. You just have to have one. Okay. And it has to be, you have to record your income. You have to record all of your expenses. And the IRS is good with that. If you get audited, and you don't have that information, they're going to classify your business as a sole proprietorship. And I don't care what kind of legal structure you are, you can be a corporation. And if you don't have an accounting system, they're going to say, no, you're a sole proprietorship. And that's how they're going to count it at that point in time. Okay. Any questions, any concerns, any issues, anything that I didn't cover that it's like,
I'll ask for somebody. People have really been excited about the profit first model. So you pay yourself So how does that work if you set up payroll and you're paying yourself with a paycheck? How do those two systems work together?
I'm not quite sure of the question.
Okay, are you familiar with the profit first model?
A little bit, not too much.
Yeah, it's a way of paying yourself a regular, I guess I'm answering the own question for you, for the person, but you pay yourself, so you make sure you're paid, and then based on whatever's left over, there's your operating expenses.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. I don't call it that, but that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just call it paying yourself first because you're the one working your tail off and you deserve to be paid. That's what I call it.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you set up a regular payroll, but you don't have the funds to fund it, I guess is the issue.
Yeah. Here's the example that I used a little bit ago where I said, this person set up, started their business. They weren't making really any money in their business. So they just decided to take a draw whenever they could. But once they got to a point where you have a pretty steady income coming into the business, set up your payroll at that point in time. I think that's always to me is a good practice, is just to set it up, get it going. And I don't care if it's only $500 a month, just kind of set it up, get it going, expand on it. Watch your profits, watch your cash flow, see if you can give yourself a raise over a period of time and build on that. Okay. That's what I'm going to suggest. Okay. Okay. Any other questions about LLCs? Anything at all? Okay. S corporations. S corporation is, I alluded to the fact through an LLC, you had to pay $800 a year, right? And I'll go back to the LLC for a second. I just read something the other day that California is waiving that the first year of an LLC. California has for a long time, as long as I can remember, waived the first $800 the first year on setting up an S or a C corporation. So again, you're going to pick your name. You're going to go through the Secretary of State. You're going to, complete the statement of information. You're going to set up your federal EIN number. You're going to, on an S corporation, you have to do Form 2553. There's you don't get any other choices about that. You're going to file a business license through the county or the city. You're going to set up your EIN number through EDD to do payroll. And then you have to create what is called bylaws. Bylaws are the governing documents in which you're going to run your business by, okay? And then on an S corporation and a C corporation, you have stock certificates. So you value your stock at, I've had people value their stock at like 1 penny, and I say, oh my word, why would you ever do that? And this is why I say that, is because when you have stock certificates, you have to fill out those stock certificates for each value of stock. And so if you buy 5,000 shares of stock at 1 penny a piece, do you know how many certificates you have to fill out? I wouldn't do that in a million years. Okay. Don't forget, these are privately held. So it's not typically something that you're going to put on the stock exchange. You couldn't do that at the very beginning anyway. But what I would want you to at least set your stock value per share at a minimum of $100, okay? You can pick your value that you want to value your shares of stock at. So you can pick $100, you can pick $500, you can put $1,000, whatever. And then you say, I'm going to buy I'm going to buy, say you pick it at $100 a share, and you're going to say, well, I'm going to put in $5,000 of money into my stock. And that's that. And you put $5,000 of your own money into your business and you buy that stock. Okay. That's how it works. Okay. And the stock certificates in your name as the business owner. Okay. All right. So you have to get those. You open your business checking account and you set up your accounting system. Okay. All right. Any questions? Any concerns? You guys are pretty quiet. Is this a lot of information? Yeah, I'm getting nods from everybody. It's a lot of information.
It is a lot.
Lots of, yeah.
We do have, we're running up against the time a little bit, but one of the kind of broad topics would be great to cover is this asset protection. Like there's taxes and you've covered that, but there's certain things that these business entities kind of separate your personal life and your business, and if you get sued or insurance and that type of thing. So
So yeah, well, you know what, one of the things that I forgot to talk about under the legal structures, through the LLC and the S corporation and the partnerships, they're a pass-through tax structure, which means that any of the profits that the business makes, you personally have to pay the taxes on it, on those profits. Okay. Just to let you know that the business doesn't pay the taxes. Now I have an LLC, and when I have to pay taxes, you know what I do? I give myself a raise on my paycheck. That's what I do. And I pay the taxes because I still have to personally pay the taxes. So where do I get the money from? I get the money from the business. You know, I just give myself a raise, pay the taxes, and then I lower my paycheck again. That's all I do. Okay. Okay. So now let's talk about insurance in all of these. Think about this, and I'm going to use this analogy with my hands. Okay. So here we have a sole proprietorship. A sole proprietorship is just like this. Here's the business. Here's you personally. There's no separation legally from the two of you, the business and you personally, no separation. A partnership, there's a little bit of separation. And then we have an LLC and there's a little bit more separation. And then we have an S corporation and there's a little bit more separation. And then we have a C corporation, and my hands are going to go way off the screen. There's a lot of separation between a C corporation. Okay. So so now you're starting to get a visual of the separation from a liability standpoint. Okay. So this is what I say about insurance. Even though the business has, depending on what kind of business structure you select, your business is, if it's a sole proprietorship, there is absolutely no separation. So if the business is sued, so are you. If you're sued, so is the business. There's absolutely no separation. Then you get out here a little bit, and you get out here a little bit, and you get out here a little bit. Okay. So once you start that separation, that whole separation is, in the way I look at it, is your ability to fight off a lawsuit. Because that's really what it's all about. It's really about the lawsuit. I've been sued 6 times, by the way. Nobody's ever won, but I've been sued 6 times. And I was glad that I had that separation. But what's more important is I'm glad that I had the general liability insurance. You always, whether you're a sole proprietorship or you're LLC or a S corporation or whatever, you want to make sure that you have general liability insurance. There's a lot of people who do not carry general liability insurance. So this is my rule on general liability insurance. You want to have general liability insurance based on your risk factor. That's kind of the way I look at it. And so is $1 million a good policy? What's your risk? What's your risk of getting sued in the business because the general liability policy is for your business? It's not for you personally, it's for your business. So if I have a $2 million policy, does that cover typically any lawsuit that's going to come my way for any reason at all? Okay, that's the question I have to ask myself. So what is the depth of my liability? So here you have the business over here, and you have general liability insurance. I always like to over here get what is called an umbrella policy, and that's on the personal side. So you have this umbrella policy over here on this personal side, and when you get that umbrella policy, it's, you know, you'll hear people talk about an umbrella policy, and it's not the same as what I'm talking about, because insurance companies start and call everything, oh, it's an umbrella policy. So we'll kind of wrap your car and your house and your blah, blah, blah. That's not the kind of policy I'm talking about. I'm actually talking about a true umbrella policy. That true umbrella policy is to protect all your personal assets if you're sued over here. So if your $2 million of general liability insurance doesn't cover everything, what they're going to do is they're going to come directly after you as the individual. That's exactly what the state of California is, a deep pocket state, right? And the reason why we have so many lawsuits in the state of California is the average attorney only makes $35,000 a year. They're all looking for work, right? So they're going to come after you. It's up to you to protect all your assets over here on a umbrella policy. Typically an umbrella policy is about $125 a year per $1 million. It's worth it, absolutely worth it. So I look at this policy as being the catch-all over here, that if I'm sued over here and it doesn't cover my, what I think I have like $5 million over here, and I think I have $10 million over here. So I have $15 million in insurance. And if that doesn't cover me, well, then they can just have everything they want, you know, because it's like, I'm done anyway. Okay.
You're a fortress there, Panda.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Because the reason why is because I want to make sure that from here, they don't come over here, because I don't want my personal assets. And so my personal assets is, my rule of thumb is to double what my personal assets are worth in my umbrella policy. So if I have $1 million worth of personal assets, I'm typically going to get $2 million on my umbrella policy. And that's going to cost me about $250 a year. That's what it's going to cost.
There's a couple questions kind of related to that. So I'll just read. I'm a licensed social worker and have professional liability. Do I need business liability as well?
Yes, absolutely. They're two different things. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Troy, does that answer your question as well? Troy's asked, what about personal liability insurance?
Mm-hmm. Why do you want personal liability insurance?
Yeah, I just read that personal liability insurance is recommended for a business that's consultation oriented. So I'll be providing like treatment recommendations for individuals.
Okay. Okay. Yes, I would do that. But you also need the general liability insurance. But I would also do the umbrella policy over here on because you're a consultant.
Thank you.
Okay, I would do that. Okay. All right. Any other questions along those lines? Yeah.
So I just have so Panda, if people have more specific,
yeah, I think Nicole has a question.
I do, but does Robert want to go first?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Okay, so my question was just similar as the consultant. So I'm like a life coach. Basically, I do coaching services online. Would I need that general liability and that personal liability as well?
Yes, you should get both.
Both. And what about an umbrella?
I would look at your personal assets and base it off the value of your personal assets.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's very helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Cool, Panda. So how, if people haven't had all their questions answered, or they have like really specific questions, how do they move forward? Is it, what do you suggest? They contact you through the SBDC or?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So does everybody know how to get consulting services through the Small Business Development Center?
I really hope they do by now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So absolutely take advantage of all of that. You know, I mean, I think you should be, you know, if you know, you don't want to come and see me, you know, which is fine. At least, you know, Robert should be, you know, you should be knocking on his door, because he's very, very knowledgeable about what he does. And he can really help you. So make sure you reach out to the Small Business Development Center and get set up with a consultant and start to move forward on that. So I do consulting out of the Sierra, you know, the Sierra SBDC, and out of the Sacramento SBDC as well. So if you're in Sacramento, I think Robert, I heard you say somebody had been moved to, I think it was Daniel that was moved to the Sacramento, SBDC. So I consult out of there, and hopefully Robert will get on to the Sacramento SBDC as well soon as well. So let's see, is there anything else at all? Does everybody just kind of get a broad, you know, give me some nods. You kind of get a broad start. How do you determine if you're going to have a sole proprietorship, and if you start your business as a sole proprietorship because you're not making very much money, and it's perfectly okay to do that. When do you move to an LLC? Here's the answer. When your revenue reaches about $35,000 to $50,000 a year. It's a pretty easy answer. That's kind of the benchmark, you know, because a sole proprietorship doesn't cost you much money. An LLC has a little bit more responsibility to it. You have to have articles of organization. You know, you have to go through the Secretary of State. You have to do all that. You have that $800 a year, you know, you have additional expenses. But when you're first starting out, don't hesitate to start out as a sole proprietorship. I'm a total believer of not spending money unless you absolutely have to spend money in your business. So be very conservative with your money. Spend your money on your business. Don't spend it on the frills of thinking that you have to have certain things when you don't have to have certain things. So if you don't have to have an LLC or a corporation, I wouldn't do it. Okay. Now, if Robert and I were going into business together, the only type of business that I would do with Robert would be a C corporation. I wouldn't do an LLC, and I wouldn't do an S corporation. I would only do a C corporation. That's it. Okay. Has to do with bankruptcy laws. That's why I would do that. Because if for some reason, say Robert and I were in a LLC and I had to file bankruptcy, it'll force Robert into bankruptcy as well. Okay. But if we're a C corporation, it won't touch the business, and it won't touch Robert. Okay. So I would do it to protect him. And that's why I would do it. Okay. Just in case, because you never know what life is going to bring you tomorrow. Okay. That's why I would do that. All right. Any other just general that I didn't cover, that burning questions?
I think it's great information. Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. I know earlier you covered that a home-based business, you can morph your address. Can you let me know, like, what do you mean by that and how it can be done?
You can go through, and I want to say that it's mailbox, etc. has, I believe it's one of those mailbox places.
Yeah, someone put something, I think it was the UPS store.
UPS, it could be, yes, it could be the USP, yes. UPS store, yes. It could be that. You can go there and you can actually form an address that looks like a physical address, but it's really, your mail goes to that UPS store.
Got it. You also mentioned for sole proprietor, it's better rather than SSN have a EIN number. So you also mentioned that it's sufficient to have state. My question is like when to have a state EIN versus federal EIN, or do we need to get both? I'm not sure if there is difference.
Okay, the federal EIN number you want to get, no matter what type of business you open up. I don't care if it's a sole proprietorship or a corporation, you want to get an EIN number, okay? The state EIN number, you only have to get that when you have employees. And if you are going to be on a payroll, you are considered to be an employee. So you would have to get a state EIN number. And that's the only time you have to get it.
Is getting a state EIN free of cost, similar to federal?
Yes.
Okay. The other question I had is like you mentioned, like LLC, like it's best to start with the sole and then expand into LLC. So my question is like, say if I start a company as home-based and a service provider as a sole proprietor, but down the lane, like I have a product business, I want to add on. So under one LLC, can I have a one for a product based, and then on the same LLC, can I do a service based business, or does it need to be like two individual LLCs, or under the same LLC can two perform?
Okay, you can put it all under one business. Yeah, I would do that. I would just make sure under my accounting, I tracked my revenue separately.
Okay. So it could, so you're saying like just have one LLC, but then for the product-based business, have it under the same, and also a different service that you provide, a different product, like not a physical product, but a different consultancy. It can also be combined into the same LLC.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I guess just as far as logistics goes, there's no way I'm going to get my presentation in, but the good news is Thursday we're meeting again, so I'll do that.
Are we out of time?
We're getting there, but it's cool because you know, I think people are hungry for this information. So I'm going to throw in another thing is this idea of, okay, I'm a sole proprietor, then maybe I'll be an LLC or an S corporation, maybe even a C corporation. And then I'm like, nah, forget that. I want to be that, you know, I want to change to an LLC, or I want to change, you know, downgrade.
Watch this. Okay. We have up the ladder and we have down the ladder. Okay. I like visuals, by the way. Okay. Sole proprietorship, LLC, S corporation, C corporation. There's a B corporation here too. Okay. So we have so if you start over here, you cannot go back this way. You have to close your business. If you go from here to here to here to here, you just advance. You can go up the ladder, but you cannot go back down. So if you open your business as a corporation, you actually have to close that corporation, and you have to close it through federal and state notifications, everything. You have to close down everything. You have to close down your accounting records. You have to close everything. Okay.
But you could just to not be so scary. You could, if it was a successful business, you could sell it to yourself, or you could sell it to the different entity. It doesn't mean you have to be out of business, just on the books.
Oh, no, you don't. Yes, you don't have to be out of business. Right. You just have to, you're still in business, but you have to close the legal structure of that business. So if you went from an S corporation to a say a partnership, you would have to close the corporation. It doesn't mean you have to close the business. You close the corporation. There's a difference between the business and the corporation. Okay, So all you would do is you would just transfer all the assets from this corporation over to the partnership, and business as usual. Nobody would ever know that you've changed, okay? Except you, except all the work it would take to do that besides.
So you're not allowed to go from a C to an S one time. I think wasn't there, it used to be you could go back one.
You used to be able to, but I think they've put a stop to it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And if we were allowed to talk about nonprofits, this is the part where I would say that a nonprofit is also a corporation.
Yes, a nonprofit has to be a corporation, and you have to have a board of directors. Where in an LLC, you don't have to have a board of directors. In a corporation, you have to have a board of directors. But I used to own a corporation, and it was me, myself, and I on the board. It was me, myself as owners. So you can have a corporation and have one owner of that corporation. So I owned 100% of the corporation, and I was the only board member. Okay. So it doesn't take a lot of depth. You don't have to have a lot of depth in your business at all. You don't have to do that. Even as a C corporation, you don't have to have a board. I would unless the board brought something to the table for your business, I would never have a board. Because if I wanted to have a meeting tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, I would just do it. Because you have to have annual meetings, you have to have minutes. In corporations, you have to do all that. LLCs, you do not have to do all that. I think that's what's so attractive about LLCs. There's a lot of things you get that separation, but you also get there's a lot of things that you don't have to do that a corporation you have to do. Okay. Other questions? Is everybody just like so confused? You know, it's like overwhelmed. It's like overwhelmed. Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Robert?
Yeah, I mean, so since we have just 15 minutes left, I'm curious, you know, it seems like the LLC sounds like a really good way to go.
LLC is very attractive to people. Yes.
So what is, okay, so I've done the paperwork to form the LLC. What is the overhead admin? What does it take to keep that thing going?
Not much. I have an LLC, and I just make sure that I have good accounting records. I have an LLC filing my taxes as a corporation. So I have to make sure that I have good accounting records, which I do. I use QuickBooks, pretty user-friendly. I do my own accounting. I would never do my own taxes though, by the way. So if you're new into business, a couple things that I'm going to highly recommend that you do is that you get a CPA, number one issue, get a CPA. And the CPA stands for Certified Public Accountant. I would never, even though I know accounting and I understand accounting, I would never do my own business taxes, not ever in a million years. And people say, oh, use TurboTax. Not so fast. TurboTax is not what it's cranked up to be, okay? So, so I would get a CPA. My CPA saves me enough money every year that I pay his fee, and happy to do so. So how do you find a CPA? I think the best place to find a CPA is ask another business person in your industry. That's exactly what I think. So you know somebody in your industry, just talk to them and say, hey, do you have a CPA? If not, you can go to a website that's called Cal CPA. You can find a CPA in your industry, in your area, and you call them and interview them. What you want from a CPA is you want them to be responsive. You want them to know about your industry, and you want them to be part of your team. In other words, you're going to have tax planning every year. You want that person to give you guidance in tax planning every year. Absolutely. You know, so had the example that I used from the person who didn't take a paycheck when I suggested he take the paycheck, right? If he had a CPA and he was meeting with that CPA a couple times a year, the CPA would have advised him to take a paycheck. You know, it wouldn't have been just me. It would have been that person as well. The whole idea is I always want my tax burden and my what I have to owe in taxes to come out just about even, so I don't have to pay a lot. So I want my profits to be okay, but I don't want them to be too high. So I want to be able to not pay any taxes. So how do you do that? I just give myself a raise. When I see that my profits are too high in my business, I give myself a raise and take money. That's what I do. But I do it through paychecks. I do it through a paycheck. I don't take it through a draw, because it's not gonna matter if I do it through a draw. I'm gonna do it through give myself a raise on my paycheck. Okay. Or I might buy equipment, something like that. That's going to reduce my profits as well. Now, there's two sides to that. If you're going to try to you're in business and you're trying to build your business up to get a loan, you want to show as much profits as you possibly can. And I would pay the price of paying the taxes, because if you take all the money out, and you don't show profit, you're not going to get the loan either. So you have to decide. That's why planning in business is so important, and financial planning is so important in a business. You want to look at everything that you have in your business as being the driving force to what you want to accomplish. So so when you're putting your business plan together, and you're doing those financial projections, and then you open your business, how close are you to achieving those financial projections? And if you're off those financial projections, you say, oh, I'm going to make X number of dollars in revenue, and you're not hitting that mark. Why? You've got to make some adjustments. You have to make some changes, and you have to figure out why, when you projected something, it is not happening. It could be the slide in the market. It could be, it could be a lot of different variables, but you want to keep your business on track if you've put a business plan together and looked at those projections. So, okay. Business plan always helps you, gives you focus, gives you a target. That's what I like about them.
Someone asked about giving yourself a bonus.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love bonuses. You can do a bonus on profits if you want to, or you can just look at your cash flow at the end of the year and say, hey, I can give myself a bonus. You can do a bonus in several different ways. You can give yourself an extra paycheck if you want to, or you can just give yourself, you can take a draw on it and pay the tax on it later. Okay, through your tax filing. If I'm going to give myself a bonus, I usually just take it through a draw, and I don't worry about doing it on a paycheck. Okay, sort of depends on the size of it as well. Okay.
Brenda, so because I'm starting a brewery, I need a liquor license to conduct business. Should I still file the fictitious business name and run the newspaper ad before I do all of the licensing application and all of that, or what's the order of operations as far as all that goes?
I would probably file for the liquor license, and and I don't know the answer to this question, but if they require that you have a business license prior to you filing for your liquor license, then you're obviously going to have to get that business license first. But if they don't require it, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't spend the money if I didn't need to, because usually with liquor license, there's several months from the time that you apply for it until the time that you are granted that, you have plenty of time to get that business license, get your business set up, get all that going for yourself. But if they don't require it, I wouldn't do it. Yeah, because you can, like I said, you can get your, I don't care what kind of legal structure you're going to be, you can pretty much get it all done, everything done within 2 or 3 days. Okay.
Okay, so there's an interesting question about how do you identify how much you pay yourself on a paycheck for a sole proprietor?
How much money can you afford to take out of the business? You know, and on a sole proprietorship, I had a sole proprietorship, and my sole proprietorship was, and it did okay, but it didn't do really well. I ended up closing it because the market just wasn't there, and it wasn't a good, it just wasn't a good business model. It just wasn't. It wasn't a good product. So I ended up closing it. And I think the maximum that I could take out of it was maybe $300 a month or something like that. So, but it never really got any traction. I've seen other sole proprietors. I know a person who has a sole proprietorship, and he takes a paycheck. He does not take a draw. He takes a paycheck, and he takes a little over $12,000 a month. So there's no limit on it. You can do whatever you want, whatever your cash flow is going to allow you to do.
Well, that's a nice paycheck.
It is. It is. He's doing a good job too. Yeah.
I do want to address, someone had a question about loans and loan sources. Nicole on Tuesday is going to give us a whole list of resources and links on resources, which will include some finance pointers. So
good. Yes. Yeah.
Can you change the monthly paycheck amount at will?
Sort of depends on your, if you go through a paycheck company, and it sort of depends on their ability to adjust. I know some paycheck companies who will not do that. They need 3 months advance notice. I know one that, it's like you can notify them 2 days in advance and they will do it at the drop of a hat. So I think it just depends on that. If you do payroll yourself, absolutely you can do it. You can do it whatever you want to do. It's under your control. It's your business.
Yeah. I guess a note of caution there is make sure that the tax, your tax rate is, you're considering where your tax rate is and the deductions that you're taking. So you're not surprised if you, for example, set it at a low paycheck at the beginning of the year, and then you're like, oh, I'm doing good, but you haven't changed those deductions.
Yeah. Be careful when you fill out the W-4 that it's pretty consistent then. So if you say, one dependent, or 2 dependents or something like that, then leave it there no matter what the dollar amount is on your paycheck. Okay. Yeah.
Let's do one more.
Okay.
Anything else? I can start wrapping this up.
Okay.
Okay, well, I want to point out something that Panda said about she's mentioned quite a few businesses she's done, but she said she was a sole proprietor and it didn't work out, and, tried it and realized the business model wasn't great. Welcome to the life of being an entrepreneur. The business that you're starting now may or may not be the one that you retire on. But obviously Panda has great business acumen, and it's this path that we're all on. Just like if you were, you went out and you got a job at a restaurant, you were a chef or some, a waitress at a restaurant. doesn't mean that's, you know, you're going to change your job. Just like if you're a business owner, likely you're going to change your business over your lifetime as well. And that's okay. That's great. And just know that along the path of your entrepreneurial career in your life, what we're doing here is just putting those tools in our toolbox. And the more tools you have in there, the stronger you're going to be. And it's okay to realize like, hey, there's something wrong with this business model and change.
Yeah. You know, I think that's such a good point, because not every business is going to be successful. I mean, that's a fact of life. It is a fact of life. Just like, you know, just like you brought up, you know, it's, you know, my business model was not a really good business model right from the start, but I thought it was going to be. When I was doing my research and putting the business together, I thought it was really going to be. You know, I'll tell you kind of a funny story. I retired from banking. I used to be a lender. So one of the things that I did is I thought, oh, when I retired, I'm going to write business plans for small business people because I know that they really need them. Because as a lender, I saw business plans that were like, they really needed a lot of work. So I did my research. I figured, you know, I did everything, kind of got this going, you know, months and months and months before I retired. So I had all my plans. So, you know, a couple of weeks after I retired, I was going to open this business. Boom, there we go. The first thing I learned was, yes, everybody needs a business plan, but small businesses didn't have the money to pay me. And so what I did is I quickly revamped my thinking. I contacted banks on the East Coast. And the reason why I contacted them on the East Coast is because of my research. I found that people on the East Coast are much more savvy about business plans and the need to have one, and they wouldn't consider opening a business without one. So I contacted them, and all of my clients became Fortune 500 clients. They were all Fortune 500 businesses. And so, you know, what I thought was going to be my business model, I soon had to abandon, and I went to plan B, you know, but I didn't even know plan B existed until I was forced into looking at it. Okay. Nicole, you had a question.
I think she was just giving you props.
Yeah.
Panda.
Oh, okay.
And we're a minute over.
Yeah. Okay.
You're getting a lot of love in the chat. Everyone's really appreciative of your info, Panda. And I just want to wrap it up. Thank you so much, Panda. You know how to get a hold of her. Call the Sacramento SBDC or Sierra. Or Sierra SBDC.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when the intake person says, you know, talks to you, say, I want to talk to Panda about that. I want to say, just we're nearing the end of this course. We have Thursday and Tuesday. And I just want to say, like, I really like you guys. It's been really cool. This has been a really great experience. And I'm going to miss holding this class. I'm going to plant a seed that I talked about doing an ongoing accountability group. I'm thinking Wednesday mornings from 9 to 10:30. Give me feedback, but that would work for my schedule. There's no way I can coordinate with everybody and find a time that works for everybody, but that's what I'm thinking for now. I'm just planting the seed. As always, I'm going to hang out online here. I won't be able to answer the questions like Panda can. Panda, thank you so much. Feel free to hang out a little bit. Nicole, thank you so much. And we'll see you on Thursday.
I want to thank everybody for their time and energy. Great questions, and I appreciate it. And good luck with being entrepreneurs, because our country needs entrepreneurs like crazy. It's the backbone of our country. Absolutely. Yes. Great. Okay. I'm getting a lot of thumbs up. I can see them. Good. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Panda.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Panda.
Thank you.
Thanks, Panda.
Thanks.
That was a good class. I made some personal business decisions based on the class tonight too. I'm like, oh yeah, there's some things I got to shore up.
I tell you, when we were at the BRC and Panda had we were doing the live classes, I would sit and listen because you pick up nuggets. You may not, the little tidbits. And this is, again, why we have this recorded is because you hear one thing and then you re-listen to it and you pick up another and then another and then another.
Yeah.
You're brilliant, Panda, and everything that you say, it's follow Panda. For all of you still on, follow Panda.
Well, thanks. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
So anyone
What's your last name, Panda?
I'm sorry, what?
What's your last name?
Morgan.
Morgan, that's right. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't really have a last name.
Okay, that's what I was like. I don't think she really asked. Okay.
Yeah.
Just Panda. Everybody will know when we call
Everybody knows. Yeah. Everybody knows. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're here. Anyone want to open up, have a question? I think there were a lot of questions tonight. That was great.
I do have a burning question. I'm super, super, super confused. So I'm doing my first, I have a show, I have products, and I have coaching. This is my first foray into selling products. So I'm planning to sell some in my office. So it's going to be a brick and mortar, tiny retail, and then some e-commerce. I am selling them through my website that my website developer has made an e-commerce platform for. Do I sell at 7.25% sales tax? And do I have to, I've never charged tax on my coaching. Should I be charging tax on my coaching? And my third and last question is, if people buy products off of my website, do I have to then recreate that invoice in my accounting software?
Who's going to take it? Panda?
I can tell you this, on service industry, you never charge taxes. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. You don't charge taxes on that. Since you're selling in different states, Nicole, do you know the rules about the sales tax in different states now?
No, unfortunately I don't.
Yeah, I think the best place to reach out to is probably the Franchise Tax Board, and to learn what those tax codes or those tax dollars are in different states, because I believe that they have a listing of them, and then you have to charge that sales tax depending on what the sales tax is per state. Like Oregon does not have a state sales tax, so you don't charge people a sales tax in the state of Oregon. Nevada doesn't have one. So there's certain states that have them, and there's other states that have like huge sales tax. And so you have to know the sales tax, the base sales tax.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
To start off with, I would make sure, I think you're in Auburn, is that right, Ty? Or
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so wherever that sales tax, if there's like, let's say you have a WordPress site or whatever, your e-commerce, and there's a place to say, what's your sales tax? The safest bet would be to put that in, but then do what Panda said and check with the tax board.
Yeah, just as a kind of an FYI, Ty, real quick, we're having on the 24th of February, I have a workshop coming up with EDD and IRS, and it's small business tax. So I believe it is full. So email me if you want to attend, and I can send you the Zoom link.
I'm so grateful. Thank you. And if anybody knows, do I then, any sales that I make, am I then back on the back end? Am I recreating those invoices in my accounting software so that's clean for my tax accountant?
Yes. Yes, you want to do that.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Panda. I think it's been great and a lot of information to soak in. Sorry, I think I missed first 10 or 15 minutes of the class. So I'm planning on having a sole proprietor maybe to start with. So you mentioned, doing business entity as is not, DBA is not as crucial, So can you please reiterate, like, what are the 4 key steps I think you mentioned, like, we need to do first opening a sole proprietorship?
Yeah, you're going to register your business name as a fictitious name filing in the county, in the county in which you live, fictitious name filing. Then you're going to ask the county if you need a business license. And then you're going to get your EIN number, federal EIN number. Okay. It's got to run in the newspaper 4 consecutive times. And then you open your bank account. It's pretty simple. Sole proprietorships are very simple.
Okay. So running in the newspaper, does it need to be in the physical newspaper that we need to contact, or can it be like online resources or anything?
Physical newspaper. Has to be a local newspaper. Now, if your local newspaper is online, there's no physical, you can do it online, but it has to be a local newspaper.
Okay. Is it mandatory to run in the newspaper?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. My other question, sorry if nobody has, just one more follow-up. I'm thinking of some kind of contract business, like I just got an idea like yesterday that thinking of having. But I already purchased some contracts and I have invested some amount through my personal account. So, but I haven't opened the business account yet. So would those costs be considered, or can I like say if I invested like $1,000 or so for the contract or for an exam or something for this business, how do I do that in the business, or do I just need to forget about what I invested so far on the business?
You can any expenses you had prior to opening your business, you can do it 90. You can take 90 days back from the day that you open your business, and if you have any expenses, you can write off those expenses onto your business.
Okay, great to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got about 5 more minutes. So if anybody else has any questions, now is the time. Unmute yourself and ask away.
Okay, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Can I ask you one? I'm sorry.
Okay, there we go.
I'm sorry. I have a question. We lived in San Joaquin County and we have a business operating in that county, but we're thinking about starting to do business here in Placer County where we live now. So do we need to file more paperwork? I guess I'm a little concerned about that because we moved back a couple years ago. And then part B to that is, do you need to, you mentioned sole proprietors and renewing the FBNs. Do you have to do that with an S Corp as well?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
I didn't think so, but I thought I would ask.
Yeah. So the first question is, you were in San Joaquin County and now you're in Placer County, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to, well, let's kind of go back a little bit. Did you give your change of address to San Joaquin County?
I believe we did. We're still operating and doing business in San Joaquin County. Yeah.
But now you've added Placer County, right?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, you need a business license in Placer County as well.
Okay.
Business license there and a business license here.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think it's it.
I think so.
Okay, well, looking forward to seeing y'all on Thursday.
Thank you. It was nice seeing everybody.
Thanks for a great class.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Robert, Nicole, Panda. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Hey.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.